What's going to happen at the Tesla Robotaxi Day? In this video, I'm going to go through exactly what to expect, what not to expect, and what my predictions are for what the stock is going to do. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? What's the valuation have to say about it? All of that and more. Let's get started now. First, I will be covering the Robotaxi event tomorrow on October 10th. I'll be covering it from here in the studio so we can add live commentary and cover everything that happens. And of course, the first thing that we expect to happen is that there will almost certainly be some form of purpose-built robotaxi. This has been in production at Tesla for many years now, and we expect this to be sort of the first reveal of this no steering wheel device. It's going to be an expensive prototype. This is not a mass-scale device. It probably has extremely advanced, non-consumer, and power-hungry hardware built onto it, mostly because it needs to function perfectly. And quite frankly, my expectation is, in addition to seeing this concept design for a robotaxi, mostly because it'll still be years before we actually get to really take rides on public roads in these robotaxis, I think that we are actually going to end up having a flawless reveal. Now, this is the purpose-built robotaxi. This is not going to be the, open up your app and submit your car to the robotaxi network. We might hear talk about that, and we might even see app functionality that says, look, you're going to be able to, in the future, submit your car to the robotaxi network. But don't anticipate that, in my opinion, on the hardware sets that we have now for these consumer vehicles, because honestly, it'll probably be closer to 2027 or 2028 before we really get started with robotaxis in scale to where they're even remotely a threat to Lyft or Ubers. And are more broadly accessible, kind of like Waymo is in certain areas today, but non-geo-fenced opportunities for Teslas, probably looking at closer to 27, 28. One of the reasons I argue that is because one of the Bloomberg analysts who tracks Tesla supply chains says that their latest supply chain survey indicates Tesla's robotaxi, aka the Cybercab, may enter mass production in the first quarter of 2027. And because production is still some time away, expectations here might be a bit optimistic for the event. Now, there's some other commentary here, and I don't necessarily agree exactly whether or not the stock could go up or down based on this alone. I think that most Tesla investors are actually relatively reasonable here, and they realize that, yes, this is very promising, but there is a lot of work to do. Yes, there's a chance current hardware may not make it. Honestly, that might also be understandable. I realize there are going to be some of us that are like, but we were sold that we can, take our current Tesla and inject it into the robotaxi network. It's probably not a likelihood. However, what we are going to see, I think, is a flawless event. After all, this event is going to be set on a private lot, the Warner Brothers Studios lot, with extremely clear road markings and signs, no gotcha situations, or unique edge cases. There won't be edge cases here. Like, they literally won't put their Cybercab into an edge case scenario. A, because, well, they legally can't, but B, this private Warner Brothers lot is just going to be very, very basic. Simple left-right turns. I'd be even surprised if we got a left turn, frankly. And I wouldn't be surprised if the paint on those lane markings looks brand spanking new, because I think Elon will gladly throw money at the Warner Brothers lot to repaint all those lane markers to make sure this launch goes perfectly. And honestly, rightfully so. There's a lot at stake here. This is going to be the most controlled Tesla launch we have ever seen, because Elon's basically, betting the bag on robotaxi and FSD. So this has to go perfectly. This can't be like Cybertruck, oops, I broke the bulletproof glass. This needs to go flawlessly for robotaxi. Now, at least the demonstration, which is probably going to be something like the vehicle will be introduced. You'll see a new image of a two-door vehicle. You'll get substantial applause. They'll talk about why it's two doors, because most rides are single rider anyway, so you don't really need four doors. There could be other versions in the future, but we'll start with the two-door to hit the mass market first. Then Elon will invite guests and other YouTubers to ride the robotaxi and possibly go on a little short ride to pick up McDonald's from a fake stand-up McDonald's where a bag of McDonald's is brought out from the McDonald's facade, carried by a Optimus robot, who's bringing the bag to you, and then you're supposed to grab the bag, and hopefully the robot lets go at the same time as you're grabbing it so it doesn't fall on the floor. This is really like no risk for McDonald's. There are going to be so many eyeballs on this event. McDonald's sales are going to go up tomorrow. This is a no-lose situation for McDonald's, and is a really good idea if indeed the rumors are true that McDonald's is going to be involved. I suspect that they will be, and I think it'll actually be really cool. I think this will likely go flawlessly. I do think that Optimus walking out and presenting you the food will be very cool, but I do want to be that jaded person, and I do want to apologize for this, but it's going to be human-controlled. Now, that's still going to be impressive because it's going to show you the function, hopefully, of the Optimus walking and not falling, walking faster and not, shaking, being able to use its hand and the servos inside of its chassis very well. I'd like to see some nice, 3D printed cladding that makes it look not like a robot, but more like a friendly droid that's helping you. I do think you'll see these things. And seeing its actuators in action will be very important. So smoothness here, rather than the tethered wobbliness we've previously seen with Optimus, I think you're going to see that. Again, I do think somebody's going to be wearing the little headset and the control or whatever in a window or some kind of, container that you can't see around the corner on the studio lot. It is, after all, a studio lot. We know how to play angles here, okay? So this is probably going to go really flawlessly. I think you'll have very short rides in these Robotaxis, no driver, no steering wheel. I don't even think you'll have a safety driver because honestly, even a safety driver at this point would just be lame. You'll have somebody with a safety button that could turn it off remotely, but it's a private lot, so you don't really need safety drivers because, private lot. You can kind of do what you want on a private lot, mostly. Always remember, though, always stand behind Alec Baldwin. Anyway, okay, so with all that said, all of this will be choreographed really well, and it'll be very hard for this event to go poorly. Now, what is actually much more important here is the Model 2. No, not the Roadster, though I'll talk about the Roadster in just a moment. What actually will be much more important on the Robotaxi event day will not actually be Robotaxi. That will not be the showstopper. What this event is actually going to be about, or please, dear Lord, please give us this good news. Give us the greatness of the Model 2. I understand Elon Musk is heavy on Robotaxi and all of that, but folks, we need volume. We need Tesla to print Teslas like the good old 2021, 2022, meet Kevin, Tesla bull, buy the dip days. We're going to copy and paste factories, and there are going to be 10 million of these suckers on the road. Bro, I am sick and freaking tired of not being able to cheer Tesla's delivery numbers, okay? We're down in Europe. We're down in the United States. We're going to be negative year over year. Elon's dancing on the stage with Trump. Elon's pumping, everything but the manufacturing capacity at Tesla. And so what I think this event is actually really going to come down to is Elon going to at least give us a taste? Just the tip. Come on, baby. Just a little bit. Just a taste. I want to taste the salt. I just had a bunch of dry roasted macadamia nuts. So good. Anyway, this is what this event is actually going to be about. You need to reveal a cheaper Model 2. Elon knows, and the Elon team knows how much Tesla was punished and Tesla stock was punished upon the cancellation or rumored cancellation of the Model 2 that was basically later confirmed-ish. Therefore, the easiest way to drive Tesla stock to $300 is just introduce the freaking Model 2. $25,000 to $30,000. Go back to the $25,000 vehicle. Somewhat risky because if you say you could pre-order it soon, you're going to cannibalize Model 3s and Model Ys. So you have to do this delicately, but I think the way they'll do it is the Model 2 is coming. Here's what it looks like. It's not ready yet, and we'll do pre-orders and a delivery event in the future. We don't know when, but maybe at the beginning of 2026, we'll actually start mass producing this. And it'll be partially done on existing lines and partially done on the Unbox strategy line. Honestly, that, in my opinion, good enough. to help Wall Street increase their growth expectations for 2026, help increase the projected EPS for Tesla, and then Tesla stock can actually go up even more than it already has. Because honestly, right now, volatility is surprisingly a little on the lower side, 10-day historic volatility, which is good if you wanted to buy options going into this event. I think a lot of people go into this thinking it's going to be buy the rumor, sell the news. I actually think there's a good chance if they pull off a good launch here and they pitch the Model 2 that the stock will actually go up. If I had to guess, I'd probably be like 265 after tomorrow's event day is actually reasonable. And if you could break 265, you're going to be able to get to 295 and 300. That'll be your next barrier. Obviously, unless they completely ignore all of this and there's some catastrophe with the Robotaxi event and there's some catastrophe with, not getting back to the basics and announcing the Model 2, well, then obviously the stock will, tank under the 220s and it's not so much that that'll last because then really pricing will take over for recession or not. And right now markets and bond markets are not pricing in a recession. There's less than 15% pricing of a recession in the stock market and bond market right now. Nobody has downside protection for a recession, it seems right now. Everything's just new highs, which is fine if there's no recession. Terrible if there's a recession. But anyway, Tesla's current valuation at $245 with forward EPS of $2.26 puts this at about a $108 PE ratio, which is high, but you do have some delicious growth forecasts. And honestly, I keep seeing these growth forecasts and I watch them and they kind of keep ticking up a little bit, all right? So I got to give it to Tesla here. You've got 130% growth over the next 4 years. And if I divide that, that works out to an average of about 32.56% growth per year on average here. That's pretty good. And now if you divide that into the PE ratio, you're trading for about a 3.3 peg, which is ridiculous for a manufacturing company like Tesla. Like even if you were an FSD company solely, fine, maybe a 2.6 peg. But honestly, you're probably about twice the valuation of where you should be right now. And the only way to justify this valuation going up is that you introduce the Model 2. So if we don't get the Model 2 tomorrow, this crap tanks. And I already see the comments. I know people are going to be, Kevin, this isn't advertised as a Model 2 event. This is advertised as Robotaxi. I'm sorry, okay? Like, there's so much like vitriol and hate and anger on the internet. I just have to fight back. It makes me feel better, okay? Anyway, no, I mean, really, look, I'm a long-run Tesla bull, but we need a Model 2 here. We need the Model 2. We need it. This would be the easiest way to drive this to $300. Is Robotaxi is coming, but in the meantime, we're going to pump EPS with the Model 2. That's it. That would make this a killer event. Okay, Roadster. Sure, fine. Maybe you could pre-order the Roadster at the end of 2025. I think that's about 60% possible. It's the Model S on steroids, maybe smaller, two-door, coupe style, 1.4, 0 to 60. The Roadster, I don't think the Roadster, will really make or break anything here. No Roadster will be a disappointment, but it'll have little impact on the stock. Model 2, much more important. Some of the latest things we're seeing in pricing is that you're currently sitting at about 5.29% to finance a Tesla. But if you get FSD, they're dropping that to 0% financing, which is pretty nice. And they did drop the FSD price from $8,000 to $7,000 on existing inventory. Personally, and I understand this might be unpopular, but personally, I would drop the price of FSD to like next to zero, maybe $1,000 or $2,000. I'd play with those numbers there to see like where can I sit based on price elasticity of demand factors to get the most out of this. But I think 8 is way too high. The take rate's going to be like 7%. It's way too low. And this is like pure margin, right? So like get it to where the take rate is like 90%. And just get me like, 10 times $2,000. Now I'm getting $20,000 versus every $6,000, right? Or $8,000, whatever. This is a sign to me that they still have to pull demand levers to try to prevent being year-over-year negative this year. But I think markets have already mostly priced in that we're going to be year-over-year negative here. So really, that's why you need the Model 2 to be launched tomorrow. and you need a flawless FSD presentation. One of the reasons you really need a flawless FSD presentation as well is because of the corporate departures we've seen over the last few weeks. And that's not... It's not horribly unusual at Tesla to see corporate departures, but we've had a lot, okay? I mean, Tesla's chief investment officer quit 5 days before the Robotaxi event. The head of vehicle programs quit 12 days before the event. The head of public policy quits 10 days before the event. These are all the autopilot departures, you know, of when they started and where they went now. I don't know that this is necessarily so terrible, though, because, you know, usually in tech, many corporate departures are likely the result of recruiting or poaching. So it's not a horrible surprise to me that, you know, that guy went to NVIDIA, that guy went to Cruise, that guy went to Scale, that person went to Baidu, that person went to Autel Robotics, you know, Waymo, what else do we have here? Plus, Amazon, NVIDIA, Waymo, NVIDIA, Aurora, NVIDIA, NVIDIA. Like, this is not Apple. You know, none of the NVIDIA. This is not a surprise. These sort of corporate departures are very, very normal. This is the tech world. Okay? This like, you take your stock, you take your salary, okay? And let's say you have stock worth $5 million in Tesla and a $300,000 salary. You know, and then NVIDIA goes to you and says, how about $20 million in stock comp and a $500,000 salary? You don't give a flying rat's hoony hiney how great or not the Robotaxi event's going to be. You're going to be like, see ya. You know, it's just the way it is. So I don't actually really think this is that bearish, these departures here. Slight potential, probably not, but slight potential. You get wireless charging. I don't really think we're there yet. The loss is like 40% on wireless charging. It would just burn so much power, you know, in the air. I don't see that happening. Maybe the Optimus trying to plug in a Tesla, but I even think that's just a bad idea because it's probably not going to go well. Cybertruck, they might reiterate how, you know, the non-foundation series pricing is going to be sub 80,000. That's great. Still tough when consumers are constrained. Really, you know, the burdens for Robotaxi are just going to be regulatory approvals. And I understand that people argue, oh, but Kevin, you know, it's so much safer to have a Robotaxi and, you know, regulators will be forced to adopt Robotaxi. I understand people think that, but the reality is all it takes is one person dying or one really bad accident, or worse, a bad accident that kills someone, or a combination of this, that just ends up delaying Robotaxis infinitesimally far out. So I actually kind of agree with the analysts that you probably get Tesla testing these in many different locales around the country by 2027, end of 2027. Maybe you do a test pilot and you launch that in 2025 in like Austin, Texas. Big deal. You've got, you know, 10 Tesla Robotaxis in Austin, Texas. That's not a game changer for anything, but it will lay the groundwork for a wider rollout by 2027. So another, you know, 2.5 years out. And you probably won't have like ubiquity in Robotaxis until another decade, like 2034. So I don't really see this as a huge revenue driver. And that's why I say tomorrow, even though it's called the Robotaxi Day or event or whatever, it's all about the Model 2 here. Some people have been asking me about what I think about the risk for like Uber or Lyft. I mean, yeah, these stocks could obviously move based on, you know, just the news cycle for Tesla. But honestly, I think the risk is relatively low for these over the next probably 5 years. And they're already partnering with Waymo and other companies to bring you a driverless ride, which is actually really smart because when it comes to Robotaxi, what people care about the most is speed. Like, how long is it going to take for a vehicle to show up? Quite frankly, the vast majority of people, like, I think Uber costs and Robotaxi costs will probably be about the same, right? So as you scale more Robotaxis, you're just going to see the price of both of them per mile come down in this competitive deflationary cycle. And the reality is, most people outside of the enthusiast community don't give a flying rat's wahoonies whether or not somebody's driving the car or it's a Robotaxi. They're just trying to get from point A to point B in reasonable safety and comfort. It's that simple. So the cheapest, fastest option is just going to be what people take. And if that's a human driver, Uber delivery, or a Robotaxi, it doesn't really matter. What it'll come down to is what's the app that people open to call the first ride, and can that ride show up before the person opens up the next app to call the next ride, and then they cancel the first one, right? That's just how the consumer is going to operate. That's not how a Tesla investor is going to operate, but that's how the consumer is going to operate. So this is sort of my realistic take. I'm not placing any bets on this. Personally, I apologize. I'm just a little bit bearish right now on the entire economy. It has nothing to do with Tesla. I personally think the odds of a recession are like the opposite of what the market is pricing in. The market's pricing in like an 85% chance of a soft landing. I'm at like an 85% chance of a recession. So like, forgive me. Okay, this is like just, you know, bear Kevin. I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, it's going to be great for all my startups. Okay, my startups don't want a recession. But if I'm right, it'll be bad for the startups. I mean, we'll be okay, but you know, I'll go buy the dip at cheaper prices. But I will say, you know, some of the valuations right now are a little rich, and there's probably valuation side, if you don't get a Model 2, a lot more downside. So I'm going to make some predictions here. I'm going to say if we get Model 2 and things go the way I predict here, we're looking at $295. That's Model 2's coming soon. Cheaper pricing. We're getting back to volume growth. Robotaxi is going to happen, but we're focusing on volume. That would be a godsend. Okay, $295 plus. Even though the valuation's kooky. Downside, no Model 2 mentioned at all. No teases, no hints. $195. Certainly $220. Certainly $220. $220 is almost certain. That's an easy one. $195 is possible too. Anyway, I'll be streaming it. I don't have a horse in the race tomorrow. I love you, and if you're in the stock, I wish you the best. If you're hoping for a dip so you can buy the dip, great. I love you. I will always be here to share my perspective. We might not always agree, but just know, even if it's unpopular, I'm just going to give you my honest, wholehearted opinion, and I'll just keep showing up. It's the best I can do. Appreciate y'all.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.